with you guys, I know you always seem to have a lot going on, but what are you focused on right now? What's happening in real time for you guys?
Yeah, we have Expert Ownership Live. It's an event. It's a live virtual business summit that we're doing October 21st. So John Maxwell's our headliner.
Okay.
We also have the Duck Commander family, the Otterbox family, Michael Jr., John Bevere. We got a bunch of, A-list talent, and we'll be talking nothing but business.
That's awesome. How did you guys come up with that strategy, that plan, this event? What brought you there?
Well, once David and I got our businesses to a point where they're all running themselves, and we like to say that we got to see-apreneur status. You start out as a wantrepreneur, then you go to a solopreneur, then you're an entrepreneur, and ultimately the goal is to be a see-apreneur, where you don't have to have a business at all if you don't want to, but we chose to keep ours open. And once we got to that point, we started thinking, man, we need to actually divulge some of what we know to help other business owners to get to a point where they can be a see-apreneur. And so we created the Expert Ownership business course. You can go to expertownership.com. But then one of our marketing guys said, dude, let's do a live event where we bring in expert owners, guys who and women who have been there, done that, and have done a really good job of removing themselves from their business so that it can run without them. And so that's what gave us the genesis for that idea.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I think, when I hear that, I think that could possibly spook some people out, right? Because they're like, wait, if I, most people that start a business, deep down, they're nervous, paranoid, control freaks.
Yeah, totally.
But
that's exactly. I was just going to say the greatest leaders succeed through others. That's what all the best, that baseball team, basketball, these coaches, they all succeed through others. But you were about to ask a question. I want to hear what you're going to ask.
Well, I was just going to ask, for you guys, I know, listen, I love you guys. I love the energy. I love the vibe, but there's people that may not, know your story just yet that are going to listen to this. But how did you guys get involved with business? I love that you were baseball guys right away. We have a connection, but how did you get started in business?
Well, the first thing that we did was when we were kids, Jason and I started a little lawn mowing business. We were 12 years old. We pushed our dad's lawnmower with Jason was carrying the gas can, and I was pushing the mower down to Cecil Ingram's house, a few doors down, Dallas, Texas. We scalped his lawn. He gave us a job. He saw these two little sweaty 12-year-olds in the Texas heat. He gave us the job. We scalped his lawn, literally. I mean, we mowed it so low. He was very gracious to us. And, after a few years, we started to learn, and then we had 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 20 lawns. And so we were little entrepreneurs when we were kids, but then we got drafted and, I was drafted out of high school by the Mets, but we ended up going to college to play baseball and then got drafted. So we put our entrepreneurship, business hats on hold.
Okay.
And then when we got out of baseball, Jason and I decided, let's get right back into business. Now I will say one thing. There's a caveat there because our dad was a pastor. He didn't train us, to be businessmen. Now, we didn't have any business training at all. As a matter of fact, we were at college. We both studied American history. So we don't have business degrees. We got nothing. And so, basically you study history to prep for the major league draft, but we love history. But one thing that we did do, and I've got this right here with me, but one thing that we did do was we read the Bible a lot. And we didn't have the cell phones, and we didn't have computers. We didn't have all this stuff tugging at us all the time. So we had a lot of time in college and in pro ball to think through things. And as we would read the Bible, we started seeing just like our minds were naturally entrepreneurial. We started seeing kind of patterns of entrepreneurship and how to run a business and how to run it with values and how to stand on principles and not to waver off of those principles. So when we got out of baseball, we got our real estate licenses and we started our company with no training. We just applied the principles that we learned. Some of the simple principles like be faithful in the little things, right? I mean, that's crucial. Always give more in value than you take in pay. Be willing to go the extra mile, the second mile. Just some of these, be a fountain and not a drain. Be a producer and not a consumer. These are timeless principles that we gleaned out of Scripture. We kind of reworked the wording for ourselves, and we started our company on these principles. And then that's when, 7 years later, we had 100 offices, 35 states. We were buying and investing in other companies, and starting a bunch of companies. So it was a very exciting journey, but our foundation never changed. Our foundation was the principles of God as we discovered them through the word of the Lord.
Yeah. Now, how old were you guys when you were doing this?
We started our first business at 27. So we
First
played,
official business. 12 was our little lawnmower business.
we played professional baseball from the time we were done with college. We went to Liberty University.
Okay.
I was drafted by the Orioles. He was drafted by the Red Sox, and we both ended up with the St. Louis Cardinals. And we have a book about that story called Miracle in Shreveport. Man, I'm telling you, Dana, you would love this story. I mean, if you're a baseball guy, if you're a sports person and you want to see God's hand at work and the power of prayer in whatever area of life that you're in, that book is for you. But we got out of professional baseball 25, 26, and we started our first business in real estate at 27.
Wow. That's amazing. And you know, it's interesting, right? You had this career in baseball, which, oftentimes could be very negative, as we all know. And then in business, you really can't afford to be too negative, because if you have to be your own biggest fan in order to do it. But how did you guys have the confidence to expand the way you did? And were you worried that you're growing too fast, or you were not growing fast enough, or, how did you manage all of those emotions?
Well, one of the things that we had to learn right out of the gate is we are naturally ready, fire, aim guys, right? I mean, it's just like, yes, we're in. And that's great because we're initiators, and a lot of entrepreneurs are initiators. But what you talk about, slow growth, is key. Jason and I had to scale back a little bit. And one of the things that we would do is we would say, okay, here are the different clients that we want to land in our business. And we would pray about them. And then we would just simply pray, Lord, open up a door for us to be able to connect with them without doing some, overly creative, borderline manipulative marketing pitch to them. And slowly but surely, we were able to build our company at that time. But when you kind of harken back to the negativity of baseball, one of the reasons why it gets a little negative is because you can easily, as a baseball player, and I know as a trainer yourself, you can see how other guys got a break and you didn't get a break, or they're with this organization that pays this, but your organization doesn't. I remember when I was with the Red Sox, and I know you're a Yankee, so you don't really like this, but the Sox treated their minor leaguers like gold in terms of the food. We would show up to spring training, a whole breakfast spread for the minor leaguers. And then in the afternoon, man, and every Friday it was fish, that Catholic organization.
And it was no more Garcia Parra had to eat his fish in between his shots of steroids at the same time.
But the good old days.
But the thing is that then I got traded to St. Louis. And I rolled into spring training, no breakfast. And then I remember coming in off the field, working out in the morning at spring training, and there was a big bowl of soup with just a smattering of oyster crackers laying on the ground. I'm like, well, what is this? Where's our lunch? And one of the minor leaguers he was a Dominican. He's scooping it out and he goes, this is our lunch, man. Yeah. And I'm like, what? This ain't our lunch. So there's all kinds of little things like this that can cause you to get negative. Now in business, as an entrepreneur, all of the negative things actually can be positives when you decide, you know what, I'm going to take the mess and I'm going to make it a masterpiece, right? I'm going to take the pain in the marketplace and I'm going to find a way to answer and solve these problems, these problem pools that I'm searching for, in a way with a happy and a cheerful heart. And of course, that goes back to the core component of our faith. But that's really when you have a positive outlook, even in the midst of true negative things that aren't great, that'll set you apart in the marketplace, and people are going to want to be with you way more than the other negative people.
Okay, so I want to expand a little bit upon that, because what happens when you do get negative, right? How do you guys switch your gear to stay focused? That deal doesn't come through, or that client, disappears, or, you have a certain income target that you're going for and it doesn't happen. I work with a lot of salespeople as well. And this is something that they're always seem to be fighting against the tides. How do you keep yourself moving forward?
Well, first, I would say you've got to have vision. Okay. Vision is like the lid on the jigsaw puzzle. So you take all the pieces of the puzzle and you dump them out on the table, and then you look at that lid, and then you start putting the pieces together. Okay. And you're going to put the wrong piece in the right place. And you're going to put the wrong piece in the wrong place. and then you're going to have to fix it and you're going to have to move it around, but you just keep looking at that lid and you keep moving pieces around. And what you'll recognize is at the end of the day or at the end of the month or at the end of the year or whenever it is, whatever your goal is, you're going to arrive where you envisioned in your mind. And so that's where David and I go in and say that, yeah, there are going to be some tough times. You're going to have some calls where a client's going to fire you. You're going to lose that sale to somebody else. Those things will happen, but keep the vision out front. So for David and I, it was the exact same way. Our goal when we started our first business was to not just become entrepreneurs where we own the business and we had a system and all of those things and people working in it. It was to become see-apreneurs. So I'd go on vacation as 29, 30, 31 years old. We're 4 years into our business. It's starting to do really well. And I'm thinking, man, I could buy myself a BMW right now. But I kept the vision out front. I don't want a BMW. What I want is financial freedom. I want my passive income to exceed my living expenses. So I got to drive this Nissan Altima with 175,000 miles. And here I am sitting on the beach, on vacation, thinking of everything that I want to accomplish being a see-apreneur. And by the time we were 33, by God's grace, we accomplished that to where our passive income exceeded our living expenses. And, at that moment, that's usually when people say you can retire. Yeah. We're like, no, we retire. We put new tires on and we start moving in another direction.
Can I say one thing about the negative, when you lose the sale and all these other things? Jason went to the whole idea of vision. Really, it's a mindset, because success is in the journey, not the destination. Because you can't ultimately control everything. I can't control a sickness in my family. I mean, obviously we can live as healthy as we can, but I can't ultimately control all of these things. And so when we realize, you know what, I'm going to be faithful in the journey. I'm going to be faithful with these customers and these clients. I'm going to be faithful to deliver the service I need to deliver. I'm going to be faithful to tell the truth, even when it hurts. And if I lose the sale, if I lose the job, it's okay, because my paradigm is that I was successful because I was faithful in the journey. Now I'm hoping that the destination gets me to see-apreneur status or to landing that big sale. I'm hoping for that. But, as we hope for the best, we have to prepare for the worst. Yeah. So in my mind, I'm constantly like, okay, the journey's going to be tough. If, I lose this and I lose that, okay, you know what? This is when leaders are born, right? They're not born when it's all nice and easy. Leaders are born and leaders are forged in the midst of adversity. And so really, it's just that constant reminder to ourselves. It's the constant looking at the lid on the jigsaw puzzle, knowing that, oh my gosh, there's 1,000 pieces laying on the ground. And the whole corner that I just put together is all in pieces again. It's okay. Look back at the box and little by little, every single day, start putting those pieces back together.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. What keeps you motivated though? So, you go back to your journey, right? 33, you have some cash in your pocket, enough to live and live the way you want or need to. But what keeps you motivated today? I think, the entrepreneurial world today is filled with showing people getting on and off of the private plane that they don't own, or driving a certain car. And that's like, I think what a lot of people may be aspiring towards, but for you, you guys are deeper guys than that. What is it that drives you and keeps you motivated today?
What keeps us motivated is our sense of mission and calling. We both came to know the Lord. We got saved and became Christians when we were 12, and our dad taught us that your life is now no longer about you. Your life is about what you can give to others, so that through your life, you can connect people with the God who created them. And so it's that sense of mission and that sense of calling. So no matter where you are in that stage, I mean, there was a time when David and I were professional baseball players. We're motivated by mission there. It's like, let people know that God is real and he's king right there in your situation. When we first started our businesses, it was become really good at what you do. Be excellent. God's favor gets you in the door, but excellence keeps you there. And then pour into your employees. And then by the time we were, at a point where we didn't need business anymore and we could retire, as I said, it's now take what you've learned and pour it into other people. So that's what we spend our time doing now. We still have businesses and they run themselves, but we want to help other people grow in their understanding of how to get their business to put them in the same position.
Let me just kind of piggyback on that and actually make it better than whatever all this nonsense he just said. But I want to give an image of, there's a difference between a thermometer and a thermostat. A thermometer simply reflects the environment, right? The external environment, the atmosphere on the outside determines what's happening on the inside. But a thermostat controls the environment. It controls the atmosphere. Whatever the thermostat sets at, that's what the atmosphere around it becomes. So motivation is an internal thing, right? We can't be motivated by anything that's external. We're motivated by what's internal. So for us, it's our faith, number one. But what does our faith lead us to do? Well, it does two things. We want to generate income and impact. We want to generate income for our families because we've got to be responsible. Like we don't want to be a burden to anybody. I want to be not only a burden to nobody, but I want to be a blessing to everybody. So I want to provide income for my family, and it's good to make a good income. But I also don't want to just provide income for my family and income for my entertainment. I want to leverage portion of that income for impact in the community, impact around the world, whatever that may be for you. For us, we've financed and built an orphanage over in the Philippines. We've done a lot of pro-life work for over 5,000 mothers here in America. When they choose life, they need a lot of help. These moms are in impoverished areas. They need some help. So our company finances a lot of this stuff. That's a motivator for you. I'll tell you, you talk about being a thermostat. You're like, look, me being successful in business is literally controlling the environment and atmosphere of these young kids' lives and even some of their destinies forever. So, man, that'll keep you motivated. But if it's only like, I want to buy a Lambo, I want to have a private jet, that's all thermometer type nonsense. None of that's going to motivate you.
Yeah. And that's what you see so much of today. I mean, even the marketing of, whether it's an online event or a seminar or, a leadership speaker that's out there, it seems like that they're the liaison between you and your riches. And I feel like that message is what's promoted, is your riches determine who you are, where you're sharing a totally different story.
That's right. And who you are is determined by God. And then you can leverage and utilize those riches as an asset for others to be blessed.
It's so many people in the work world find their identity in what they do, not in who they are. That's why we say the number one thing that you can do, and if you want to be successful in the work world, is meet your creator. Is like, I mean, you were created by God with a purpose. And so why not get to know him so you can get to know your purpose? And then what happens is you begin to operate out of your identity and who you are, not trying to be someone that you're not,
Yeah.
And that's the person that finds themselves driving a $100,000 car when they should be driving a $20,000 car. And because they're constantly living from the outside in. No reason to be like that.
And one of the things that comparison does, especially as entrepreneurs in the marketplace, this whole social media thing, I've seen it with my teenage daughter, but I also see it, with entrepreneurs. You get on social media and you're like, wow, I'm not that rich. I don't drive the car that nice. I don't have that Rolex or, whatever. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, what it does is it creates comparison, and comparison does two things. If you compare yourself down where you're better than somebody, it creates pride. If you compare yourself up where you're less than somebody, it creates envy. So comparison is ridiculous. You don't need to compare yourself. You need to turn off that stuff unless you're using it for good things, but turn that stuff off. Be who you are. Produce what God has given you the ability to produce with your talents. Take your talents and make them skills. Make yourself skilled in every single area that you need to be skilled in so that you can increase your income, ultimately, so you can increase your impact. You see the way that all works there? Then you don't get burned out. Now you're like a lantern. Instead of burning the wick, you're burning the oil through the wick. The wick will last for 100 years as long as you got oil in there. So that's for us, is our faith, our mission, earning income so that we can have an impact.
Yeah. Now, I think the last 2 to 3 minutes, this is probably the most powerful part of our talk thus far, but it's something that people need to hear. When I coach people today, I can't tell you how many are burnt out, how many are passionless, how many are trying to figure out what I'm trying to do, what's next. There's an epic level of confusion amongst people that are very talented, but they just don't know really who they are anymore because they've identified so much, either, with their bank account, with their role in their profession, or they've just been, their life is nothing but business and work, and that's their identity.
Yeah. I had to learn this. I had to learn this the hard way. When I was with the Cardinals, I was in Major League spring training. I was married, had just had my second son, and I ended up getting released. And I found myself, since I was, a minor league baseball player, I didn't have a ton of money, and I had to get a job. And I ended up taking a job as a janitor at a local high school in Charlotte, North Carolina, which was nuts. So I went from swinging my bat in Major League spring training in front of thousands of people to pushing a broom in front of nobody, feeling like a total failure. And it was at that moment that, here I was, 26 years old, hadn't even got into business yet, didn't get our real estate licenses yet. So none of that had happened yet. And I was really feeling like a total and utter failure. And I began to pray, and I felt really convicted by the Lord that I was defining my success, and I was also defining my identity as a human, based on what I did and not who I was. I mean, after all, God creates human beings, not human doings. And so I had a moment with the Lord where I was like, God, I just feel like such a failure. And then the Lord just really warmed my heart. I had read the Bible for quite a while at that point, and the Lord just really warmed my heart that I formed you in your mother's womb. I knew you. I gave you talents and abilities. I know the number of hairs on your head. I have a plan for you. My plan is to prosper you and not to harm you. And so even if you're pushing a broom, and I'm not saying this is the Lord speaking, but I really felt in my heart, even if you're pushing a broom, it's just the same as swinging a bat. Doesn't matter. The context may change, but who you are is what matters. So be faithful in the little things. And I kid you not, Dana. I mean, for the next 6 months, I swept those floors and I painted those walls. I mean, I did it with all my heart, and I experienced so much peace and joy because I said, you know what? I'm just going to be faithful in the little things, and I'm going to let God handle all the rest. And I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. I want to read books on shepherding a child's heart and these other things. And I began doing that. And man, it just felt so good. And then, of course, I got catapulted into business, and now the work-life balance at that point takes off the other direction. I'm becoming so successful in flying and doing all these other things. Now I had to really hone in and say, I want to be a husband and a father first, because at the end of the day, I could make 50 grand on a deal in one phone call. But if my daughter's not talking to me, life stinks. So, you can outsource and delegate a lot of roles as a business leader, but you can't outsource and delegate that seat at in the stands for your kid's game. You can't outsource or delegate that seat at the table to have dinner with your family. So those are some of the things that really keep you from burnout, because burnout will come when you're burning the wick and your vision is off, your mission is off, and you're not living from the inside out. You're letting all the exterior pressures of performance and scoring matrices and, key performance indicators and making money and what do you drive and all these other things. You let that begin to pressure you, then your mission's gone and you'll end up burning out.
Yeah, I agree. It's all that, a lot of self-induced pressure. I think a lot of, high performers have high expectations, and those expectations are, they say, shoot for the moon, but your expectations could be so unreal, and you're holding yourself to these standards that are really, you can't even meet them. But to your point, you're over navigating your own ship, and you're not trusting that your ship is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's where you get that General McCraven, I think, and he said one of the number one things that you can do is simply make your bed in the morning.
Like the Navy Admiral.
Start there. Like, just make your bed in the morning. What's my job today? I need to make my bed in the morning, and start there. And that starts a chain of events that help you make the next right decision and the next right decision. I think burnout often comes, as well as overwhelm, when our goals are astronomical and we're looking at it. It's like, I'm going to write a book today. Well, you're never going to start writing that book because the goal's too big. It's like, yeah, you can have the goal of writing the book, but your goal today needs write 50 words.
Yeah.
Write an outline for chapter 1, right? It's very small, methodical steps that will help you.
And you're living a dream, and you can't live that way, just constantly like, I got to do this and I got to do that. No, because a dream written down is a goal. A goal broken down becomes a plan. So what you want to do is you want to operate in the plan for the day, right? Just, okay, what's my daily task? I want to knock those things out, and just make sure that you put it, in your plan, that there's some self-time where you get quiet. Yeah. Ours is time with the Lord early in the morning. And we tell a lot of entrepreneurs, we say, they're like, man, I'm so busy and and I'm experiencing burnout. And we say, okay, when's the last time you heard your refrigerator fan kick on? And they're like, what, refrigerator fan? I'm like, yeah, your refrigerator has a fan. It's got to cool itself down. But you cannot hear it in the chaos of the day. You can only hear it when nothing else is going on in the house.
You know, it's funny. I'm laughing as you're saying that, because I'm thinking back to my childhood, right? And I'd go to my grandmother's house, you know, an old Italian lady, and the house always had a smell of great food, and it was always quiet, and it was always relaxed, and you could hear she had a ceiling fan, and it was like this. The sound was so unique to that house and to that experience. But whenever I would go there, I'd feel so relaxed, and whenever I'd leave, and for a kid, you know, kids today are all high strung, you know, I mean, I'm like, that was such a great experience for me. So I agree with you 100%. How much time do we spend a day finding just quiet?
And it's making sure that as an entrepreneur or as a business leader or whatever, people that are going really fast, it's making sure to schedule that in. And knowing exactly what it takes for you to get into that flow state, that state of relaxation. So for you, it might be just an empty living room with the ceiling fan on. For others, it might be taking a walk out in the woods and hearing the birds. For others, you might need the sound of the waves crashing on the beach. Whatever it is, you got to schedule that in every single day. That's how you fuel yourself, and that's how you're going to be able to make it through.
Would you say that it's fair to say that you have to also leave this when you schedule that time?
Listen, this is a tool and a toy. You know, in the hand of a producer, this is a great tool. In the hand of a consumer, this is a horrible toy. Listen, I would just say this, and this is probably a bit too bold, and I might be stepping on some toes.
Do it. Come on. That's why you're here.
If you got video games on here and stuff like this, man, this is nothing but a toy. Get that junk off. You don't need that stuff. You know, practice, as great leaders, practice what Jason and I like to call selective ignorance. I literally will get in my car and I don't have to listen to talk radio all day long, because sometimes that stuff just starts tightening me up, especially with that cultural chaos that's going on right now. It's like, you know, and I practice selective ignorance. Look, I'm ignorant about the latest video games. I am absolutely ignorant about the newest blockbuster movie or whatever. And I'm not saying movies are bad. Look, movies are great to relax at times, but you know, the whole idea of playing video games and binge watching and all that. And then also notifications, you know, these notifications can pop up and you can be in your flow state and all of a sudden you hear, and you're like, well, you know, I mean, do you know that once you're distracted, it takes, oh gosh, 5, 10, 15 minutes sometimes to come all the way back circle to get back in that flow state. So you really got to shut that thing off and make it your tool, which means you use it when you want and you're not just constantly hooked on it.
Yeah, I think a fair question for people is, when was the last time you were in an uninterrupted flow state, right? I mean, these things could literally go off every few minutes. And if you're constantly attending to it, you're in trouble. I mean, listen, I went to the beach last night, and I have to be honest, we're in the nest here. You know, I brought my phone. I usually don't. And I'm like, I don't even remember looking at the water last night. And that's the reality. So we have to be very aware of this tool and realize that it can be a destructive toy. So I agree with you guys. And I feel like that's led to your success, right? The ability to separate from, you know, temptations in general.
Well, and we obviously would, for David and I to take credit for building successful businesses would be like a shovel taking credit for digging a hole. We are just the tools God chose to get the job done, but he does give us a choice. I mean, are you going to be hyper-focused on the job at hand and the task at hand and the calling that I've given to you and the mission that I've set out for you and moving toward that vision that you have, or are you not? And you're exactly right. This phone, man, I'm telling you, can ruin you. That's why for most everything, I turned off notifications completely, because I'm like, I'm going to master that phone. It's not going to master me.
Yeah.
And so when you get there and you've also got that time of day where you're having some good, quiet, reflecting time, it's really going to keep you fueled up.
Yeah, no, I agree. So with that being said, for you guys, I love, you know, whenever I interview, you know, leaders, I love to ask them about their day. because I think there's going to be people that listen to this. There always is, right? They see you, you know, they see these two studs, they admire what you've done, and they say, well, I have to do more. Maybe I need to, what am I doing? What does my day look like? Am I doing enough? And I would love if you guys can share your day from like, what time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? And what do you do in between? I know it's different every day, but I'm sure you have a blueprint that you probably
And you
follow.
know that your day goes in seasons, right? I mean, there are different seasons of life. You know, almost 20 years ago, Jason and I are starting our company. So our day looked entirely different, 70 hours a week, doing all these things. But the one thing that's consistent, we're both up before the sun's up. Quite often that's either 4:30, 5:30, somewhere around that point. You know, today was 6. But we get up, and then I do, you know, you're not on your phone. I mean, occasionally it's like, oh man, I was waiting for this or whatever. But by and large, I'm up, and the first thing I do is 32 ounces of water. Bam. I mean, I'm just, because you're dehydrating all night long.
Yep.
And so I'm 32 ounces of water, and then I'm making myself a cup of coffee. And then I'll go sit out on the deck and I'll look at the stars, or I'll feel the breeze. You know, I'll go and I'll just sit very quietly for about 10 minutes. There's a Bible verse in the book of Psalms that says, the mercies of God are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. Because what happens when you sleep at night, you know, when you go to bed at night, that's when your body heals itself. So you get into that REM, that deep sleep, your pancreas can heal itself, your blood, all the oxygen. I mean, everything starts to heal itself. That's when all your cuts are healing. And as a matter of fact, it's when your mind, your brain is literally defragmenting. It's getting out some of the useless stuff, and it's fragmenting and consolidating some of the other things. So you wake up and woof, you're fresh. But the key is, and this is one thing that we practice, it's called front end discipline. The key to waking up early and having a really good morning is going to bed the night before on an empty stomach, or not a completely bloated full stomach, and getting a good night's sleep. So we do intermittent fasting for the most part. We try to cut our eating off sometime between 6 and 7. Of course, when you're cheating, you know, and you're enjoying a nice meal or whatever, you go a little bit later. But you want to give yourself at least 4 hours of digestion before you fall asleep. So, you know,
did
if
you
you're going
tell
to bed
him
at
everything
11,
that you did in your day?
I'm just telling them that I was starting
Setting
with
it up.
Yeah,
I'm going
he's
to the
teaching
end.
you what you need to do with your day instead
Well,
of
I
telling
know
you
I'm doing this.
This is what I do.
I'm on pace with you, man.
Yeah, this is what I do.
I live in Florida, so
That's right.
meeting
So,
it's maybe even
and
5.
then after time with the Lord, you know, it depends on where the kids are in terms of their schedule. We'll take the kids to school, but I'll sit quietly. I'll read the Bible. I'll pray. Take the kids to school, and then come back and I go to the gym. You know, if my kids aren't in school, I'm going straight to the gym right after reading the Bible and praying. So what I'm doing is I'm engaging my spirit, and then I'm engaging my body, and I'm getting those two in shape. And then the rest of the day is for professional and relational connection. So
my goal, and I've got kind of the same morning routine, but my goal always was, by the time the kids are done with school, all my tasks are done. Like, I can fully engage with whatever they're doing. And you know what? When they get older, they don't want to be with you at 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. I mean, you know, whatever. And during those times, that's usually when it's my wife and I'll take walks. You know, it's just me and her. And we're very practical, or we're very proactive on making sure that we're, you know, at those hours when our kids are home from school, it's not time for me to push forward with my new business thing. Now, that's not the routine. Now, granted, there are times where I got to take a business meeting at 6 o'clock at night, right? But the goal was always right from the get-go, by the time the kids are done with school, man, you can be at a point where you can engage, you can coach their teams if you need to, you can be with your bride and then making sure that we go to bed. My wife and I, it's very important for us to make sure that we go to bed together, you know, each night.
And one of the things, though, when our kids were younger, my personal devotion time, my personal quiet time, or that moment, and my exercise were on my time, not on my kids' time. So if they were asleep, then I was doing that. If they're awake, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, and you park your hobbies. So when your kids are young and they need you, and obviously when they get a little bit older, they're going to need you a lot more, especially young teenagers. park your hobbies, man.
Yeah.
If you like playing golf by yourself, and that's 4 hours a week, and stop. Bring your kid with you or something. Like David and I parked all our hobbies unless our kids could come with us. And so that it's a very important thing, because man, what does it matter if you build a successful business or you make $1 million, but your daughter won't talk to you,
Yeah.
you know, or your relationship with your wife is strained? None of that stuff matters. So what really matters is, where are you with those core relationships in your life?
Yeah. And when those things are not working well, whether it's a relationship with your wife or your child, your attention's going to be shifted towards that anyway. So you might as well handle it the right way on the front end, you know?
That's
So,
right.
and it also sounds like the way you're laying out your day, just I'm thinking in terms of timelines, you know, because you're getting up early, you're well rested. It sounds like by 9 o'clock, from pretty much 9 to 3, that's your business time, which is 6 good hours
Right.
of focused work. And you can be focused because you got everything done that you needed to get done to feel great.
That's right. And one thing we did, because, you know, once you get to a certain point, you get a lot of meetings and stuff. You get a lot of people calling and wanting to connect with you or whatever, and those can be reactive. So what we did was we consolidated all of those meetings and phone calls into one day during a certain period, like the goalposts. I love your goalpost. You put these 2 goalposts in, and I've used that before. When I heard you say it, I was like, that's so good. But in that day, ours is a Thursday, which is today, which is why we're doing this interview with you on a Thursday. It's the goalpost day, and we're like, okay, between this time and this time on Thursdays, I will take all of the phone calls, now, of course, when you're in sales and stuff, all of this is an exception. I totally understand that. But in terms of just a lot of that reactive stuff and the meetings and things, you really want to consolidate that into dedicated, focused time. And then you can be a lot more open and flexible with the rest of the week.
And I'll just wrap that up, this whole thing with your day, by saying that you have to distinguish between what's vital and what's urgent. Because the things that are urgent is all about completing tasks. The things that are vital is all about sustaining and enhancing life. And what happens with an entrepreneur, or anybody for that matter that has a lot of things to do, they wake up thinking about the things that are urgent. That's like, what do I got to get done today? And these things are important and you got to do them. But if you don't pay attention to what's vital, then what's urgent is going to overtake what's vital until what's vital breaks down and you can no longer do what's urgent.
And it becomes urgent.
For instance, it's urgent that we're on this call with you. Like come 9:58, I was like, oh, I got to jump on the Zoom. And so I jumped on. But it's vital that my bladder is empty.
Right.
Now, if I didn't pay attention to what was vital because I was so busy trying to get on Zoom and I didn't use the bathroom beforehand, then I promise you, and I've done this before, I was at a speaking engagement with thousands of people. I had to use the bathroom so bad, I said, I got to go.
Dude,
I
was on stage with him and he literally runs off stage and I'm standing.
But here's the funny thing.
Microphone.
It was at a conference and it had gone long from the P speakers before us and stuff. That whenever I did that, I went running back to the bathroom and I had about 20 other dudes from the conference that were back there using the bathroom too. They're like, thank you so much for doing that. But what I did in that moment though, was I didn't pay attention to what was vital because I was so busy thinking about what was urgent. I had to go speak. Man, you got to manage your life so that you're elevating what's vital, and we get that done first. This is why I work out first. Yep. You know, this is why when I wake up, I'm drinking that water and then spending time with the Lord, doing my own private devotion times on my own in the quiet, then working out first. That takes care of what's vital, right? The next is I can spend the rest of the day doing urgent things.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Now, and when you guys were sort of in the heat of battle, building your company, building your business, you know, in your, you know, mid to late 20s, was this stuff a priority then, or was this something that you learned? You know, I'm sure you learned a lot of this too, being an athlete. You were already regimented more so than the average, but was it something that you still did in the early days of your business?
Yeah.
When you're in growth mode?
And we attribute that to the business success.
Got it.
So it's when we were 29 and our business was exploding and we had just so much work to literally, we could have worked 18 hours a day and still not got it all done. So we had to prioritize the work that we got done. It was during those times where we still spent that good solid 30 minutes to an hour alone in the morning. and then a good 30 minutes to an hour of working out. That happened even when all that stuff was going crazy. And we do attribute a lot of our success to that.
One of the things though, that we had to learn along the way, because we had young kids. I've got 5 kids. He has 4. Now I've got 2 boys in college, 2 in high school, and then 1 in elementary school. And he's basically the same. But one thing that we had to learn along the way is the vitality of your relationships. So my daughter, one of my daughters last week was a little bit short with me. My wife texts me and says, I think her love tank's a little empty. Well, I started thinking back, when's the last time I took her to dinner or did her nails or any of this other stuff?
That's
I couldn't even remember.
That's the hard part about being a dad of daughters, is that you're married to, you have like 2 or 3 or 4 wives, however many daughters you got. You got one wife, and then all these daughters get to be teenagers. Just like, I got another wife.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I realized that, wow, I have not been taking care of what's vital in her life. It's never urgent to go to dinner with my daughter. But then all of a sudden now she's, she was crying in the room because dad wasn't paying attention to her. Now that became urgent to me, like, oh crud, I better step in, when I should have just been paying attention to the vitality of the relationship. So with our kids and those relationships and that work-life balance, that is what's vital. And I've got to pay attention to that every day. So I kind of have like this mental checklist. When I'm praying for my kids in the morning, I pray for each of them by name. And that helps me with a checklist, because whatever I'm praying for, I'm asking, Lord, is there something that I can do to step in and be closer to them, or let them know I love them, or help them across this particular hurdle in their lives? And if there is, I'll make a little note of it. I usually have my laptop. I can write a quick note to myself and a memo, follow up with, this kid this afternoon about this.
Yeah.
And that really helps me keep what's vital in place.
And also too, it makes you a good manager of not just your work, but your family, which is probably much more important in the end, right?
Oh yeah.
That's cool. It sounds like a lot of what you have put in place for yourselves, they're ways to keep you very present and in the moment. And there's power in that. I mean, how many of us are 100 yards ahead, years ahead, and we're not living today, or we're thinking about, yesterday, and again, we're not thinking about today. So it sounds like a lot of what you have in place for yourself, from the working out, to the time of the word, it's all about now.
That's right.
And
That's
real
right.
time.
It's interesting you say that. Our mother passed away 3 years ago now, October, so of 17. And one of the things about our mom that Jason and I both shared at the funeral was the power of presence. And we talk all about our dad and the lessons he taught us, and we talk all about our coaches and all these other things. But I'm telling you, man, our mom, you walk into her house, and Dana, I know with your Italian family, they're probably the same way. You walk into my mom's house and she's like, eyes on you, listening. She didn't even have a smartphone. She didn't know what it was. She had a little flip phone. She didn't really even know how to use it. But it was so amazing because she wasn't on Instagram. She wasn't on any of this other stuff. Yeah. And she'd just sit there and listen. And halfway through the talk, she's like, you want some eggs and grits? We're like, yeah, heck yeah.
There's some sausage in there.
Get some bacon grease in that stuff. She's like, that's what she's thinking. Like, even while she's listening to us, she's thinking, what can I do to be a blessing to them?
Yeah,
and that really helps me that, when we're with our kids, like not only listening to them and nodding our head, but like thinking, how can I really bless them? And what is it that I can do? And in all of our relationships, I think it's kind of like decorum now. When you're at dinner, everybody puts their phones face down, and that's great. But maybe we get the phones off the table.
Or leaving
maybe you leave the phone in the car. Heaven forbid someone have to have an emergency and get a hold of you. I'm like, well, what did we do throughout human history when there was emergencies? It's okay. I'll be back in the car. I'll just leave the phone in the car. And that really helps your presence.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I got to say, the phone is the number one distractor today. I know it is for me. It's as if I'm waiting for some, miracle call to come, or some email that's going to change your life. And it's like, how did we do it years ago? And we're at an age where we can say we've, a good portion of our life was without a phone. Our developmental years, we didn't have this. It allowed us to be and feel and imagine and dream and do all these things. And how many of us are doing that with the same vivid detail like we did as kids today. Probably not as many people.
No.
So
No.
that's cool. Well, guys, I always end with this because I want to hit you with this. I'm looking forward to your answer. I said it's the Becoming a Champion show, and I always ask, what does the word champion mean to you? And
Well, okay, so I'll start first. Our dad, his favorite song was "The Champion" by Carmen.
okay,
You can Google Carmen. He's an Italian Christian musician, but man, he's got a song called "The Champion," and
okay,
it's all about Jesus being the champion of our soul. And I remember one time at a baseball game, our dad was our baseball coach, and we were 11 years old. And at the end of the game, he worked it out with the PA announcer that he could play this song for all the people that were there. And so Dad got everybody together right after the game, and he got the other team there in the field, and he got our team, and we were the last game of the night, and he bought pizza for everybody. We sat down, people from the stands, the parents, everybody, and Dad actually spoke to the crowd, and he gave a gospel message, and he said, "And I want you guys to listen to this song," and he played "The Champion" over the PA system, and it was Carmen singing about the champion. And what it did, and I'm looking back on this as a mature adult, looking back on this, I see what Dad was showing us, that the true champion isn't the guy that hit the home run. It's not the team that won the game. It's the person who, at the end of their life, was in a relationship with the God who created them and had and surrendered their hearts to Jesus, who was the true champion of their soul. Like, that's what a real champion was. And that was an example that was given to us. And so when I hear the word champion, I'm thinking about Dad.
Yeah. And I would say, champion is, to be a champion is the one that lives from the inside out, not from the outside in, that's faithful in the little things, that's got that grit. He's got the tripod of success that define him: discipline, diligence, and determination. The success and the accolades and the awards and all of that other stuff, that's just the cherry on top. But the true champion is disciplined, diligent, and determined, no matter what's happening on the outside, no matter if the team is bad or not. I'm not begging for a trade to go be on a world championship team. I'm taking this team that I've been given and making them champions.
That's why MJ is the GOAT.
Yeah, he's the GOAT.
He didn't go get on all-star teams.
there's no question.
Totally. All of us, all our age group, are all fight tooth and nail.
Yeah, that whole conversation is just over. With that.
Totally. But I'll finish, because Jason used our dad as an example. I'll use our dad as an example again. We were 13 years old, and we had just finished in baseball our Little League season. And the next year we were moving up a level, and it was way more competitive. And all of these coaches in the Dallas Baseball League were calling my dad saying, "I want your boys." And so by God's grace, we were very talented. We were good players. So all the coach, every single team called. And Jason and I were thinking, okay, we're going to go to the Phillies or the Blue Jays or whatever. And these were like the top dog team. Well, you know who our dad chose? The bottom. He chose the Pirates, brother. Wow. They had never won. They were the worst team in the league. And my dad said, "You boys are going to learn to be champions. You're going to take the bottom level team, and you two are going to get in there, and you're going to work your butts off, and you're going to do everything you can. And I believe we're going to win a championship, but I'm going to teach you how to be a champion." And so I'm telling you, it was at that moment. Oh, by the way, we went 500 that first, our 13-year-old season, we went 500. Our 14-year-old season, with no like special recruiting or anything, we just took the talent that was given to us. We went 33-2 and won the state championship.
Wow,
so,
that's awesome.
I mean, it was the regional championship. And it was just awesome. I mean, to look at that and see like, wow, okay, man, we didn't go seek the best for ourselves. We became the best on the inside, and then let those around us become even better.
Wow, that's powerful, man. I love that story. I don't even know what to say. I'm like, that's cool. Cause no, it's exciting to be a part of, you know, when you get to this losing team, you're like, it's a losing team, but you have a chance to make it great. And that's the way I think more people should probably look at their life. You have a chance every day to go 33-2.
That's right.
It may take you 2 years, but hey, play 500 ball your first season. And then the next year you can, be a champion.
And that's professionally and personally. And a lot of times we look in our families, and I look at my 5 kids sometimes, and I'm like, man, whew, we're hurting. We need some help here. And I remember back, well, I got to be a champion. I got to help them succeed.
Yeah, I love that. Take the attention off of you and then put it on them and work diligently. I love that. Guys, awesome. As always, I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. We love being with you.
Yeah, super cool. I'm excited to see what you guys have coming forward. It's funny, I turned our stream off, but
are you Facebook Live through Zoom?
Yeah.
Can you do that with YouTube Live as well?
I don't know. I'm not that talented yet. I can tell you. Actually, you can go live on YouTube with this.
Can you do them both at the same time?
I don't believe you could do it through Zoom. There's like these other streaming services you could use to do it.
Yeah.
That